We deal in paint, pigment, light and shadow, realism, surrealism, impressionism, and ghost stories.
An interest in the oddball, a predilection toward the bizarre. And this place is nothing if it isn't bizarre.
There's no admission, no requirement of membership, only a strong and abiding belief in the dark at the top of the stairs, or things that go bump in the night. The name of this place, should you have come in here accidentally out of the rain, is the Night Gallery.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, where we talk about Rod Serling's follow-up to The Twilight Zone, 1969 through 1973, Night Gallery. With me, as always, is Mike White.
Howdy, hey.
And also joining us is Chris Stasher.
Hey, howdy, hey.
And I am Father Malone. Now, we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Night Gallery. This contained 2 segments, The House and Certain Shadows on the Wall. And it originally aired on December 30th, 1970. Now, as I said, the first segment is called The House. This was written by Rod Serling, based on a short story by Andre Maurois. I hope that's right. As I said, I don't understand the crazy French moon language. But it also stars Joanna Pettit, Paul Richards, and Steve Franken. It tells the story of a woman who's been having the same dream about a house over and over again, and then she goes out and she finds it. Pretty much.
And it's directed by John Astin.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, Jesus Christ, directed by Gomez Addams himself, Mr. John Astin. This is his first association with Night Gallery, but certainly not his last. John Astin is a huge friend of the Night Gallery.
Our first painting submitted for your approval is an item of real estate, but you won't find it advertised in the classifieds. Oh, it's light and comfortable and altogether well heated, but there's a chill to the place. So bundle up when you look at this one. Our painting is called The House, and this is the Night Gallery.
Chris, what'd you think of this one?
Boy.
I liked it.
It's real strong. It was okay. I don't even talk about abrupt. That's all I can really say is talk about abrupt, because Jesus H. Christ, the way this episode segment ends is, wait, did they tell a story? Is there a conclusion? Do they care? Do we care? Should we care? Because it feels like they didn't care, and by proxy, neither do I.
How about you, Mike?
I actually watched this before because we've been having some issues. Just to pull back the curtain on the midnight viewing, been having some issues with numbering of episodes. So I actually watched this one probably a month or more ago, and I couldn't rewatch it because it was just it was tough, man. It's like that premise of, I'm having this dream and I'm just about to reach the end, and then something happens. And I'm like, as soon as the lady tells the story, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is, you are the person that you're dreaming about, and yada, yada, yada. And then when she gets to the house and knows where everything is, I'm like, okay, is this like a reincarnation or what's going on? And then, yeah, the way that she resolves it, there is no resolution. I'm just like, wait, what? Like like Chris said, when it ends, I'm just like, wait a second, that wasn't an ending. What are you calling it? What happened? So I was a little disappointed.
What, if anything, happened? Now, I read the short story for it, and the short story is obviously 1,000 times better than this because it has the benefit of no visuals. It's told from the first person perspective, so it's about a person telling us that they've been, a woman who's telling us that she's been having the same dream about her house, and she's now decided to go look for it. Then she finds it, but she goes up to the front door and a man steps out and says, "Oh, you can't have this house. There is a ghost." And she says, "Have you seen this ghost?" And he says, "Yes, it's you." So it's actually, that's not even better. It's kind of the same level of abruptness as far as where it goes, but at least in the short story, it's very brief and you kind of don't know what's going on. This one takes such great pains to set up the fact that she was in an asylum and she's telling all of these stories to a psychiatrist to ground it in the real world. Although, I mean, I get it that it started sort of hallucinatory, but then they definitely bring it into reality with her and the hospital and that whole thing. So then when we go away and all the rest of the plot kind of kicks in and happens, it's so abrupt. It's kind of ridiculous. Like they could have worked it to some point where it like makes sense that she's a ghost, but it really just comes out of nowhere. The fact that she says I'm a ghost is the only indication that she's a ghost in this episode.
I thought this episode was about a prospective home buyer finding their first home. They visualized it, they imagined it, they manifested it and made it real. I mean, my interpretation is no fucking better than the episodes because it's so lazy.
I believe you're talking about apartments.com.
Yeah, that's what it is. What do you call it in Days of Yore? A Cade or a pillar? Yeah, exactly. I genuinely can't tell you what the episode is about. I really hope that when they were writing this out and when Rod Serling read the story and he was like, yeah, this is great. You know, he said there's smoke. He's like, this is so good. Like, what was it? What was it? What was it? Because it was the first person perspective. You knew you weren't going to get that. You knew you couldn't translate that. So, what was it, Rod?
I think he just liked the idea of a character not realizing that it was another thing, which is a potent idea. But as you said, like you read the story, you get the effect from it. And then as a writer of many, many television teleplays, he should have known this is nearly impossible to adapt. And maybe I shouldn't try it in a 22-minute segment of a television series. It's first person stories where the twist comes off because they're not feeding you all of the proper information. It's hard to pull off on the page, never mind visually. And so we end up getting a lot of made up story, just misdirection for no good reason to get to the same place. I read an interview with Rod Serling where he spoke about this particular episode, and he actually knew he fucked up the ending. And he said, I felt bad about that one. He's friends with John Astin, obviously, which is how John Astin got the job directing it. And John Astin also commented on the same thing. He was like, I know Rod was really disappointed with himself in this particular episode, but I liked that it was as ambiguous as it was. So I think Serling's on our side.
Ambiguous, John? Ambiguous, John?
Yeah.
Ambiguous? That's not the word for this. This is without substance.
Right. Ambiguity would have given us at the end, is this a dream or is it not? Like that would, because that's where everything was going. Like all we kept talking about is dreams.
What is base reality?
Right. To suddenly shunt it into now you're a ghost doesn't make any sense at all. Like when was she the ghost? When she was talking to the people at the hospital? How about she left the hospital and then we had two characters having a conversation about her? Did she dream that too? Or is she ghost privy to that from her house? I don't know. So stupid. All I know is that woman needs both her feet on the ground. What was that scene with the old woman at the sanitarium?
I'm so glad she's gone. That stupid bitch.
She seems flighty and not like she's on the planet, almost as if she's a ghost. Like,
how dare she not want more from life than to live in a sanitarium in wheelchairs?
I'm going to throw this magazine so it falls open on the article I'm reading. Yes, I became.
It's like the definition of lazy in this episode. I just don't understand what they were going for, and do they know?
I don't think they do.
I think if there's anything to sort of recommend the episode, I do think John Astin did a really good job directing it. Like he's one of these guys who clearly was like, hey, I got a camera. Let me try and use it interestingly. So I think when the scenes of her dream are happening, the hallucinatory thing, I don't know how it happened, but it does seem like she's absolutely floating. I mean, I know it's just that it's a woman in a car that's a convertible with her hair being blown by the wind, but they shot it in such a way that it really does have a kind of a hypnotic effect to it.
I could have done without all the slow motion.
I could have done with 50% less slow motion. It needed some of it, but you're right. It was just like,
it's a lot. It's a lot. Every time it goes into a dream sequence, it's just slows down to emphasize her going and knocking on the door, which they show us 3 or 4 times. Right. In a 22-minute segment, they show it to us multiple times.
You would think the first time she gets into that house and she hears someone knocking and runs down and sees the car going away, she didn't recognize it was her own car? Like, instantly? Like, I don't know.
Like I said, there are so many off-ramps to idiocy in this episode.
Yeah.
Just like they took off and did something stupid and then got back on and were like, we're trying to salvage this, we swear. But it's like, then no, we're going to have this car, like you said, car show up. But she... fucking stupid.
Yeah,
it's
even...
The fact that these kinds of questions can be asked just base level is frankly kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I read an interview actually with Joanna Pettit, who echoed Rod Serling, where she said, I really enjoyed this episode. when I worked on it, and then I watched it and it didn't make any sense at all. So
Right. Yeah, I can't even imagine what that would have been like to be her and watch this and just be like, what the fuck did we shoot this for?
Yeah.
I'm glad I got paid at least.
I was a ghost? I thought that was a joke.
Right, exactly. We were kidding the entire time on set. John Astin told me I was a ghost and I didn't believe him. Like, fuck.
All right. The next segment is called Certain Shadows on the Wall. Now, this one, again, written by Ron Serling, adapted from a short story by Mary Eleanor Freeman. And this one was directed by Jeff Corey. And it stars Lewis Hayward, Agnes Moorehead, Grayson Hall, and Rachel Roberts. It tells the story of an old money family and a death under mysterious circumstances and a shadow that appears on the wall. A telltale heart, if you will.
The least permanent, the most fleeting of man's proof of existence, his shadow. It comes and goes with light, hours of the day, point of the sun, angle of the moon. It is a quickly daubed and imperfect outline of a certain object at a certain given moment. This painting is called Certain Shadows on the Wall.
Mike, what'd you think of this segment?
Oh boy. I really liked when there was that painting and the old man was coming out of the grave and torturing Roddy McDowell.
What was that, 2 episodes
I really
ago?
liked that. I didn't really need to see it again so soon. Yeah. What the fuck was even going on in this episode? So he was the man who's reading Dickens to Agnes Moorehead. He was poisoning her. Is that what it is? And then
Slowly over time, yeah.
Okay. And then one of the other 2 women that's in the house whose relationship to him seems indeterminate, maybe a brother of those 2, but they're
his
poisoning.
sisters, yeah.
Okay. So they're poisoning him now.
Right. Well,
Yep.
no, it's okay.
Well, that's the twist. That's the twist.
They're all brothers and sisters, right? Yes, he has been slowly poisoning his older sister to get her because she's never going to leave the house and he wants the house.
Right.
And after she's murdered, when that woman finds the pill bottle, she poisons him immediately. She overdoses him and kills him.
Right.
Right.
Very quickly.
It's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, again, that's the hallmark of Night Gallery, apparently, is let's just do it. But no, I mean, he was doing it slowly over time so he could cover his tracks. I don't think the sister gave a shit. She was just like, fucking kill him and just dumped the whole thing in there.
Right.
So,
Yeah, she seemed very quick to poison.
yes. But they all seem a little insane.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
Quick to poison, and on top of everything else, it did that thing like it did last episode where the character is revealing the plot while the other character is sitting in the room. The sister who poisoned him goes, "Oh, well, it's just an accident." And he's about, they freeze frame on the tea.
Right.
Yeah.
What? He is right there. You're talking in earshot of this character that's about to drink this tea that you're being awfully suspicious about.
She was very forceful. Drink your tea, dear.
Right.
Drink every single drop and finish the whole thing. What the fuck? Yeah, what is going on in this show? For real.
The short story, I did read it. Same exact story. It's 2 brothers, one who is an invalid and one who has not given up his practice to come be with him, but has just shown up because he knows he's dying. They have an argument. He wants to throw the brother out, and then basically the same thing happens. But it's way more mannered than the story we got. It's the sisters, the 3 sisters talking amongst themselves about what had happened at the previous night and how the shadow had appeared on the wall and how the remaining brother had lost his mind trying to figure out how the shadow had occurred. And then he gives up and leaves, and then another shadow shows up on the wall. So it's all very implied as opposed to what we get here, which should have been more forthright about what was going on, I guess. But also I hated the shadow itself, the Agnes Moorehead shadow.
Yeah.
So clearly just painted.
And then they made it worse at the end by having
A real shadow.
a real person casting their shadow over the fake shadow meant to be like the fake shadow.
Yeah, that was super weird. Like,
What a bad idea that was.
yeah, now I know they're not going to have somebody like pose in the same pose for, however long they're going to shoot the episode, but like cut out a piece of fucking cardboard, man, and like project that as the shadow, for Christ's sake.
Right. Ugh.
Yeah, because they're like, we don't understand. It's an optical illusion. It's like, no, it's just on the wall. It's just there. There's no optical anything. And I think, yeah, to your point, Father Miller, it's like you needed to have something more. because this would have worked
Right.
in black and white.
Yeah. It would have worked a lot better in black and white.
Well, but that's my point. Like, and that's
Right.
a failing of Rod Serling, I think, is his inability to realize that. Like you said, there's a little, like you said, Father Mullen, there's maybe a gap in his knowledge base of writing more contemporary stories.
Yeah.
Because, like, this story, why are you telling this fucking story in 1970? It's 1970.
Yeah, and it's definitely an early 20th century story. And yeah, he just kind of, that was his wheelhouse. So it's understandable, but that doesn't mean he should be 100% steering the ship.
Right.
Which is, look, it eventually tripped him up, because we're going to see in the second season that there became a battle for control of the Night Gallery when Jack Laird asserted himself a little more forcefully. In addition to the sort of the bad effects in this episode, there are some things to benefit, mostly being the performance of Grayson Hall, who, anyone is a fan of Dark Shadows, that was Dr. Julia Hoffman for 5 years of that show, like 500 episodes. I love her. I love watching her. She's so odd and angular looking, and her demeanor is so frightening and cool. I like seeing her in the episode, and Rachel Hall just has this face and voice that makes me think I've seen her in a million things, but I don't think I've seen her in but one or two other things. At the very end, when they're wrapping it up, again letting us know what these sisters have done, her performance at the very, very end is particularly kind of unhinged and psychotic, and I thought actually frightening. So I wanted to say that those two things are good. Actually, the acting across the board is good. It's Agnes Moorehead, for Christ's sake, and Lewis Hayward. It's a lot of powerhouses on screen. And we say this about a lot of these episodes. It's a shame that he had less to work with than they should have, because they're all great.
Yeah, I agree. I like everybody in this episode, but the fact that they told this story 2 episodes ago, it's just, I hadn't even thought about it that way, Mike, until you mentioned it. But yeah, the whole painting thing. Man,
Yeah.
right back to where we started.
What's funny is, and when we were talking about The Cemetery, the other episode that this resembles a little too much, you said it then too, Chris. You said it's funny how many anthology series use this particular type of story. And then 2 episodes later, Night Gallery does it again. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Expand your horizons, Rod.
Right.
I think what's the most shocking to me about it, more than anything else, is the idea that somehow we want more of these stories. Like, don't we have enough at this point that you could contend, and I would, that the best version of this story has been told? The version that this one and every other one have been aping? The Edgar Allan Poe story, The Telltale Heart. I mean, the story's been told. We don't need to mind this goddamn well again.
On top of that, Rod Serling, always came off to me as like the sort of man of the people. And the fact that we keep trafficking in old money and how twisted and grotesque they all really are. We got it, man. Move on. There are other horrors to be found in this world, ones that we can actually relate to.
Right.
Well, and ones that are more topical, more prescient, more timely, like anything. More than like a bunch of old stodgy shitheads in a mansion going, well, darling, I don't get any money, and neither do you. And it's like, oh, fucking who cares?
Need more from my privileged life.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it does kind of smack of not with the times in the writing.
There's a cultural disconnect going on, but that's good. I mean, this wasn't terrible to watch necessarily, but it does point in the direction that Rod needs to maybe loosen his grip on the reins. Yeah.
If not for the fact that it has really good actors, I would say it's not great, but the actors save it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we're going to take a break, play a commercial for our next episode.
On display this evening, a pastiche of painting from Oddball Land. The poet Sir Max Beerbohm reflected that no one ever died of laughter. Object of brush and palette, the rebuttal. The clown is Jackie Slater, his occupation, a comedian. His aspirations to collect funny bones and hang them on the walls of his life to hide the cracked plaster and yellowed wallpaper that is part of the interior decoration of failure. Poor Jackie Slater. A bad joke told in a foreign language in an empty hall. The comic unable to coax laughter. The painting is called Make Me Laugh, and this lightless limbo is called the Night Gallery. Our second painting this evening has to do with the stalker and the victim, the hunter and the hunted. That rare breed of Homo sapien whose love of butchery is not a sport but a consuming passion. Offered to you now, clean kills and other trophies.
All right. On our next episode of Midnight Viewing, we're going to be talking about episode 4. Contains 2 segments, Make Me Laugh and Clean Kills and Other Trophies. One of those was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Clowns make me laugh.
Clowns are funny.
Richard Kiley on a cross, also funny.
That's always funny, yes. Where can people find you, Chris?
cstashi.com, cstachiw.com. That's my link tree. Go there. The stuff that I work on with Father Malone, stuff that I work on with Mike, and the stuff that Mighty Might with Mike is all there. And yeah, that's where you can find it. What about you, Mike? Or you, Mike, or whoever wants to do it.
You can find me over at the Projection Booth Podcast, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com.
And as for me, you can find me at fathermalone.com. You can check out my podcast, Wolf and Raisin, the Banachek podcast. It's a video podcast about Banachek. So I guess we'll catch you next time on A Midnight Viewing.